Welcome to Woodstock City Council. It is Thursday, June the 3rd, 2021. This meeting is being held electronically in accordance with Section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and Section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedural Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed on the city's YouTube channel, and a recording of the meeting will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of this meeting can be found on the Agenda, Meetings, and Minutes page of the city website. Councillors will be raising their hands in view of the webcam when moving a motion, requesting to speak, and when a vote is being taken. If a member of council is disconnected or having technical difficulties, we will take a recess in order to attempt to rectify the issue. If technical difficulties exist that prevent the meeting from continuing, the meeting will be adjourned and reconvened at a later time. If a councillor needs to leave the meeting at any time, they're requested to inform the clerk. And with that, I would ask that all of the councillors turn on their webcams. Any disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Disclosure of new business, matters arising from the minutes. And we'll go with our minutes from the May 20th, 2021 regular meeting. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lauder that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on May 20th, 2021 be adopted.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And we have no additions to the agenda, no presentations. So our delegation today, we have joining us Oxford County. We have from the Human Services Department, Lisa Lanthier and Rebecca Smith. And this is regarding support services and to assist with the homelessness. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Birch. So thank you for having Lisa and myself here from County Human Services. We'd like to provide an overview of the support services that are provided by both our department and other community organizations to combat homelessness and also any other housing supports that we do have. So if you have any questions throughout, feel free to ask. And just in light of time, I'll pass it over to Lisa to begin.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'll just wait for our slides to come up. So, as Rebecca mentioned, we're reviewing our housing service system in Oxford County. And generally, when we talk about housing services provided in the community, we speak to the housing continuum. We do call it a crisis across the housing continuum currently, and this is a state not just in Woodstock, not just in Oxford County, but as everyone probably knows, this is across the country. And we wanted to break it down and show you what the continuum looks like and how the county provides supports across the continuum. Ideally, someone starts at the left-hand side of the continuum and works their way across to the right-hand side in accordance with their income level, their job security, and what is happening in their life. So we've kind of shown, unfortunately, some of the statistics are a little bit out of date because, of course, current census information is not available yet, but we will be updating the rent structure and how much that costs in some later slides. So to start, we're looking at the left side, so the emergency shelters, and then hopefully someone goes from the emergency shelter through to transitional housing, and you can see the supply that we have in Oxford County, and I will speak in detail to those areas a couple slides forward. Then we have supportive housing, rent geared to income housing, so you can see someone is moving across. And then Rebecca will speak to the affordable housing and the right-hand side of the continuum.
Yeah, so my focus is more on the right-hand side. So we are looking at those affordable rental units, which council might be familiar with the development that is happening on Nellis Street. That's just an example of an affordable housing development that's ongoing right now. This figure is a little bit out of date, as Lisa said. So we are looking closer to about 850 for one bedroom at the affordable rate. And it is just over 1,000 for a two bedroom at this point. As you move along through the affordable rental, you get to market rental. And again, this is a little bit out to date because we are seeing the one bedrooms closer to that $1,500 a month. We don't really see that $900 anymore. And the two bedrooms are getting closer to that $1,600 a month. And then of course you move on to home ownership, which is the far right side of the continuum. And the average house price from 2020, and that was done in August, in just the city of Woodstock, we were looking at about $520,000. Now, just looking through some reports recently, as close as April, we're actually seeing that even higher than 600,000 just for a single family home. So it's just showing how high those housing prices are now. And even those affordable rents, they're still quite high for those one bedroom and two bedrooms.
Okay, so this next slide is to depict more of what's happening on the left-hand side of the continuum. You can see the left side, we have arrows pointing all over. We have a multitude of organizations and community agencies that we work with in the community. We have the individual currently experiencing episodes of homelessness, and you can see how the arrows seem to target all over the place, always with the individual in the center, but you can see there are many connections needing to be made in order to find someone successfully to be housed. So then on the right-hand side, that's exactly what we're showing is through all of these interconnections, we've been able to house the individual, but you'll also note that the organizations continue to be wrapping around the individual in hopes that they maintain and sustain that housing once found. It looks a little less chaotic with respect to the arrows because hopefully by now we have organizations linked to the individual in a way that makes sense, that they know who to contact, the organizations know who to contact, so that the person is able to stay safely and sustainably housed. Next slide, please. And then we also always like to speak about there being no wrong door for access in Oxford County. So again, you can see the organizations displayed in front of you. And we are currently piloting a coordinated access system in Oxford County with a few agencies. And what we're trying to do by that is to ensure that every person has access to housing, they have a proper assessment, they make their way to the wait list, and we know what's happening with the individuals. So no one goes left behind, no one is faceless, no one is nameless. So this is an example of the agencies where someone could access the service, they could get the information they require, and it's always the right door. So we always want to be sure that no matter where someone walks in, they can get the information that they require for housing services. So next slide, please. And then we just wanted to tell you a little bit specifically about what Oxford County Human Services does, our department. And we always like to say that our door is always open and we're always open for service. So Oxford County Human Services receives several social housing system referrals daily from across the county. Each situation is assessed immediately to determine if it's an emergency or during an ongoing appointment to see if shelter is stable. As hopefully all of you know, we utilize the quality of life assessment tool to ensure that each client has access to income, shelter, education, health, safety, transportation, employment, safety, and we always make sure that shelter is the priority for each individual that we see and speak to. If referrals come in via email, fax, we make sure that we review them. If it's an emergency, we make sure that someone has access to whether it's a requirement to go to our folks at DASO, or if it's a referral from the hospital, or housing with related supports. We always try to make sure there is a warm transfer made between agencies so no one gets lost. We do work daily with emergency community partners. This has been shown through the pandemic response and ensuring that there is shelter for those in need of testing and isolation during that time. We work daily with partners for the most urgent need, often as part of the situation table. Everyone is a phone call, text, or email away. And we also find that community members can self-refer to our department. Next slide, please. So as I said earlier, we like to really dive in more to the continuum of help along the way, just to show what the county is involved with along the continuum. So under the homeless or emergency shelter, of course, we have the Inn, our 365 shelter. Hotels or motels, we are finding that we're needing to use this more and more as the pandemic has continued to move forward. We have emergency housing through the Salvation Army. They have had on average about 13 families go through the emergency house. This past year it's been about 10 because they've had to decline the number of people for safety reasons that can enter at one time. Of course, we use food cards. We work a lot with the community health center. We have staff that go out on the mobile health bus. We use our CHIPPY fund, which is the Consolidated Homelessness Prevention Initiative, and that's the money that we use for last month's rent if required, and we also use it to prevent disconnections for people who currently are housed. We often use services from the Salvation Army, DASO, and then if people require transportation, both within the county or to move along, we provide that as well. Supportive housing, we offer the Housing with Related Supports program. We have about 70 people who are subsidized through that program. And that is for people who require assistance with the activities of daily living. Quite often the individuals have mental health and or physical challenges. Again, through the supportive housing program, we utilize the CHIPPY program. The rent supplement program we use for a lot of individuals, generally around $100 per month. And that is because the rent amounts are so high right now. If someone is receiving $733 a month, let's say if they're on Ontario Works, with the average rents being well over $1,000, we require a supplement to make the difference up. Also, supportive housing is offered through DASO, the Domestic Assault Services of Oxford County, the Canadian Mental Health Association units, with which we have some within our rent geared to income housing as well. They have their own units, Cheshire Homes and Indwell. The transitional housing, Huron House is relatively new within the county. We help support them, and they've been a wonderful addition because it really has worked well to move people from the shelter through to Huron House. They get life skills, they get a little bit of sustainable time there, and then they move on to more permanent housing. As well, Ingamo Homes has been a long-time transitional opportunity within Oxford County. Then, of course, we have our rent geared to income units where people's rent is calculated at 30% of their income. Of course, the county has 628 units of their own with 538 nonprofits listed below. Then affordable, oh, sorry, Rebecca, the affordable housing.
Yeah, then we would just get to the affordable housing section here. And just in terms of numbers, we do have about 400 affordable units, and those are run by private entities or not-for-profits. And we do have just over 100 additional units that'll be added to that section of the continuum by 2022. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, and so then next slide. So the community supports, obviously shown throughout the start of the presentation, you can see that it takes many hands to assist the people that we're currently working with. So housing and community supports are essential for many to secure and maintain housing. We work with our affordable housing supervisors, the housing stability workers, which are employed by the Oxford County Community Health Center, our client service workers here at the Human Services Department, mental health professionals, the ACT team through mental health, the ASH team, agency staff members, and system navigators. We have outreach staff that go out and work with people in the community. EMS has been essential to assisting us during the pandemic with their community paramedicine program. They've been vital in both testing and vaccinating a lot of our most vulnerable folks that we work with. Of course, we utilize, in conjunction with the community supports, the discretionary benefit program, the CHIPPY program that I spoke about, rent supplements, damage payments that are required at times to make sure that we keep landlords that we're working with happy and ready to rent to people again. health programs through our public health department, as well as through the community health department. We have rehab facilities that unfortunately most of them are out of town, but we facilitate people getting there. The needle exchange program, the RAM clinic, and the methadone clinics. The community supports assist us with private landlord connections, rental listings, and then of course the Oxford Housing Action Collaborative, which at the last county council meeting, it was suggested and approved that there would be a subcommittee from the Oxford Housing Action Collaborative to work specifically with the business improvement associations in the urban centers in Oxford County. The collaborative was set up, and most of the agencies that we deal with on the daily basis are part of that collaborative with the end goal to try to eradicate homelessness in Oxford County. Not an easy task, obviously, but we're working forward. There will be an education campaign that's coming out in the near future, as well as a continuation of the by name list that was completed in the fall by the Action Collaborative. And just this morning, I was speaking with one of our staff members that works with the by name list, and she was able to count that over 35 of the over 90 people that were originally on the list have found some kind of housing. So that was a good news story for us this morning. Next slide, please. And most recently, the Oxford County Street Outreach Group has been meeting. This is a new group, but the services are not all new. The county is involved in several of these services, whether it's our staff go out or through funding models. So the mobile health outreach bus, we do have a staff member that goes out weekly with the health bus, and all of the services you can see that are available to assist people. So the feeling is to put feet on the street and try to meet people where they are at. And there are professionals that are available through that bus to go out, and whether they are assisting people with wound care, providing them with food, if they require safe and clean needles, if they require them, those are available, as well as health referrals. And you can see some of the other things that are available, the HIV/AIDS connection, the peer support outreach, as well as the Woodstock Police. And this is not just a system that is in Woodstock specific. You can see it also goes out to Ingersoll, Tillsonburg, Norwich, and Tavistock. This is a fairly new group, and I know they're incredibly flexible, and they're trying to find things that work. They're trying not to duplicate service, and they are always trying to assist the clients that we have to meet them and to try to keep them as risk averse as possible, because it needs to be noted that we understand we unfortunately have people experiencing homelessness in our community. And while not everyone is currently prioritizing housing as their essential first priority, we do find it essential that we're providing these services to try to keep people as safe as possible until they're able to find suitable and sustainable housing. And then we've put in a number of slides, and Rebecca's just going to go through them very quickly. We're not going to go through each organization, but we've tried to present a lot of the organizations that we deal with on a daily basis, just providing contact information and what they do. And I guess if you just want to go through most of those, Rebecca, and then Rebecca will speak more to affordable housing. Hotels and motels, I won't stop you, Rebecca, but I did want to note that we have been very fortunate to be able to work with some of the hotels in the community, because without them, quite honestly, we would have more people experiencing homelessness. And while it's certainly not long-term or sustainable housing, it has helped us to provide people with a safe place to go when they have needed it. And then as well, there are the other services that have been listed. And then I think Next slide will be about the affordable house. Oh, the situation table. If we could take one moment, I did want to speak to that. We do have a staff member that attends that on a weekly basis. She has been attending that situation table from the very beginning. And it has been incredibly helpful for a lot of people that we provide service to. And it is to assist people at that elevated risk to themselves or the community. And it's quite amazing that we have been involved in a number of the cases, whether it's through housing or they require a stable rent, they require immediate money, they may require transportation, but it should be noted that the situation table has been profound and been a big game changer within our community.
Thank you, Lisa. This is just really an infographic, just highlighting the number of affordable units that have really been constructed since 2007, with again, just over 100 units being added by 2022. And the average market rent, which I did note at the very beginning, just to highlight it again. So as the average market rent is $1,062 for a 1-bedroom. For those affordable units, the actual rent is 80% of that average market rent. So it works out to be the $850 for the 1-bedroom. And then again, for the 2-bedroom, the average market rent is $1,280, and then 80%, which they're permitted to use, is $1,024. So that concludes the presentation. If there are any questions, Lisa and I are happy to answer anything that you have.
Thank you. Questions of council. Councillor Tate.
Yeah, through your worship to the presentation, and thank you for coming forward with this information, a lot of information, and I think it was needed to be seen. I got a number of questions. One, have you heard of London Cares, the program that they have running there?
Through the mayor, yes, I have, Councillor Tate. Some of the programs actually that are in Oxford County, there have been people that have worked for London Cares, and some of the programs are actually modeled after that. I'm not entirely sure what specifically you're asking about with respect to London Cares, but we have heard of that, and many of the agencies that we work with have.
Well, just to follow up with that, so my understanding, I'm doing a lot of research on this, because obviously as a politician, we have no idea, right? So I went to people that are dealing with it, people that have been homeless, addiction issues, because the answer I'm getting back from everybody, the experts in the field, it's an issue of mental health, addiction, and homelessness. Mm-hmm. So the couple of the bigger cities, I mean, I know we're only 46,000, or all of Oxford County or larger, but from my understanding, the biggest issue with all of them, they said you have to have somebody on the street level 24/7. So from your presentation, and I wasn't aware of some of it, do we have that? Because the issue is, you know, when the police pick them up or there's a problem, if you had somewhere like the London Cares, or maybe it is the county, do you have somebody there 24/7, they can just go to that, contact that person and get the person the help that they need at that time?
Through the mayor to Councillor Tate, yes, I think the most recent group that I talked about that includes the police services, Canadian Mental Health, some of the social workers, I think that is the intention. 24/7 is a difficult one to say with 100% authority that will always be available to individuals. The police very much would probably serve the most, or the closest to, the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week model. They utilize the services of the MHeart program, which has really assisted them a lot. That is generally through the day, so then we do have to speak to the evening. I suspect that that will become more prevalent. Canadian Mental Health has a social worker that's going out onto the street. They have the schedule that's pronounced, but as I said, I suspect that they're going to be rather flexible in their arrangements in order to try to facilitate anything that's happening when they are not there. So the intent is always to fill in the gaps. So I would suspect that they'll start out. I know there are services that the gaps are trying to be filled in. So when people perhaps leave from the inn, they can go to the refuge. They can leave from the refuge, go to the inn. Once services become a little more open, when the pandemic numbers decrease enough that we can be more open for service, that they'll be able to come over to our building. There will be more services provided on a regular basis, but I certainly appreciate your concern for the evening and the overnight hours, because as much as we feel that we have some services there to meet the need, not everyone chooses to use those services, and therefore we end up with potentially some issues on the street. And absolutely, I would echo what your contacts at London Cares talk about. It is often a case of mental health challenges, addiction challenges, and homelessness, and sometimes a variety of other things that are precluding people from prioritizing housing at that time. So we do need to be very careful and have as much support available throughout day and night.
Just further to that, so I think it's extremely important. I think it's exploded in the last few years, so it's probably grown quickly and to, for staff to catch up, etc. But we can't have these gaps. So I think if we seem to have so many organizations in Oxford County all doing the same thing, all funded by the taxpayer, but it's getting worse. It's not getting better. I mean, we're not going to fix it sitting at City Council. And I don't think the issue is keep building stuff, because from what I understand, some of these people won't go into a shelter and they don't have the tools to even understand living in a shelter. So a lot of it is the mental health and the addiction issue, which is going to come. I mean, obviously a lot of it's at night. The police can't do anything. So I think it's very, very important that the county perhaps is the hub and we have something that's 24/7, because right now the model's not working. And I know it's come really quickly and it's exploding. So maybe that's, catch up, but we need to have something better. And I do, talking that London Cares is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. No program is going to be. And from what I understand too, with Homewood, the addiction, they have the best success for addiction, but it's only 20%. So there's all kinds of issues. I understand that we're not going to solve them. I know the county can't solve them, but I think it's really important that we do have like the county as the hub, but we get something 24/7 for these people, because it's affecting every resident of Oxford County. When we have businesses downtown that, forget COVID, they can't even open their doors because of what's going on. So I think it's really important we've got something 24/7. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks to both Rebecca and Lisa for your presentation. It's good to get that information out there. And I think everybody, or not everybody, is aware of what actually is happening. I'd like to know that if we found you a building and a property, do you have the funds and the manpower to man something that these people could come? I'm sure there's lots of people that would do the food and that, but if we had an existing building where you could just sort of walk into, is there money and are there people to provide 24/7 service?
Through Mayor Birch to Councillor Talbot, I would suggest yes. I think it would take some work and some organization and some planning. I think we're trying to work on a variety of opportunities to provide more options to people. I think The county could not do it alone, quite honestly. I think, as depicted in our presentation, it truly does take a village. I think no truer words have been said. We're not experts in mental health. We're not experts in the legal system. We try to create systems that are going to benefit the community and the county, but we certainly rely on our partnerships to be able to do that. I think we have amazing partners, and I think more and more it's coming to light, just as Councillor Tate alluded to. A 9-to-5 model doesn't work for a lot of the individuals that require our assistance. And I think that will be the vision moving forward, is that we have to create more opportunities for that 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week care, because people require it. Even if we could house, if we had a magic bullet and we could create all kinds of housing tomorrow, we have a lot of people that still require the supports, because a lot of people are very unwell. So it's a combination of not just the building, so not just the hard shell, but the soft requirements that need to be there, because we've tried different models, we've seen it, we've been fortunate enough to be able to provide housing to some individuals, and without the supports, quite often it fails. And we also have to always be mindful of not just the individual we're trying to assist, but the other people that also may be in the buildings that we're moving them into, or the hotels or the motels or the neighborhoods. So in response, getting back to your question, I think it would depend on how much, what the budget looks like, but I think we have an attitude where we know we are at a spot where we need to provide more options for people, and we need to utilize our partnerships to be able to do that.
In just continuing, Lisa, thank you for that. So if we were to use a model, and I mean, it's not a perfect model, but just to start out with, if we were to use a model as we presently have with In Out of the Cold, which is only run from 7 at night till 8 a.m. in the morning, or something like that. Sorry if I have it wrong. But the idea is, they don't have separate rooms, but they're all together, but there's someone there and there's support. So if that model was something that we could, especially say the building, and build and then use it as a shelter in that type, but it's 24/7, do you think that's a start?
Yes, through Mayor Birch, absolutely. I think it is. Actually, through the winter before, unfortunately, getting towards the spring, the inn did have an outbreak, so it was closed down. We had to put people in hotels. But prior to that, the inn was trying to fill the gaps between when the refuge closed and when the inn opened. And then they were also open Friday night all the way through the weekend. And that was very favorably responded to by both the inn staff and the patrons who attended. They enjoyed it. They liked the activation. They liked the camaraderie. They were really building something that seemed to be working well. I don't think that's outside of the let's try it again. I think the staff and everyone is just kind of getting over the impacts of COVID, but I certainly think that is worth another try, because again, it's highlighting that 24/7. People need a place to go. People need to have a place where they feel valued, and they get that consistency. So
I guess if I might continue, Your Worship, still, I guess what it scares me is we also are receiving correspondence today about the Safe and Well Oxford Communities well-being, Joint Community Safety and Well-being Plan. We're receiving that today, and then reading through that, I get down to the part about people trying to access help for mental health, the lack of people able to supply it. They could be up to 100 days waiting, in order to see someone. And it's not because they're not trying, it's just that there isn't enough people to go around to, provide the care and help that they need. And I guess I worry that unless we have people like that are able to help us with this going forward, because that's a large part of the issue. And we need professionals, because I know myself, I mean, what we might decide we think is a way of doing something might not necessarily be the way. And I don't know about our staff at the county, if we have people, I mean, I know we have staff who have a lot of experience, but whether they're actually capable of providing what's absolutely necessary, I'm not sure.
Through Mayor Burge to Councillor Tablet, we do have a lot of experienced staff. Do we have a professional psychiatric trained individuals? No, we do not. So we support everyone that comes to our office is matched with one of our caseworkers. So they are following along, they're building relationships, they're making the appropriate referrals. But you are correct in stating the service may not be there the moment you refer someone, and that's ideally how you get immediate responsive help. It's just like if someone's an addict, if they decide tomorrow, that's it, I'm going, there may not be a place to go to and the waiting list is long. We are very mindful to make appropriate referrals. We make sure like there are telephone numbers that you can call. There's a service called Reach Out that is available 24/7 where you should be able to get someone on the other end of the line. It's a partnership between Oxford, Elgin, Middlesex regions, but it's not the same as being able to go to a counselor. So again, I think because of one of the results of the pandemic, we see every day where they say that there's going to be an insertion of cash to some of the more social services because people are hurting all over the place. So I like to think it's going to get better. I think we're pretty fortunate that we have a variety of services within Oxford County that we rely upon and we refer people to. Is it ever enough? Is it ever available immediately? Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it is. We've had our staff, when we're all in the office, we'll walk right over to Canadian Mental Health with our clients to ensure that they don't get lost along the way, because sometimes if the phone call isn't just enough, you physically need to walk with someone over there. So we are very mindful of the requirements of individuals and try to find out what they need. And that's why we use the quality of life indicators that are very closely modeled after the social determinants of health. So we're looking at the entire person. We're not just saying, oh, are you here for Ontario Works? That's it, that's all. So we try to be very, very mindful of that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Petter.
Through the mayor to the delegates, Lisa and Rebecca, thank you for your presentation. It was extremely informative. What I'd like to really touch on is what the city taxpayer sees. All these programs, I wish they could see exactly what the county provides, but they don't. All they see is the homeless downtown and at the various malls and the encampments around the city. That's all they know. And you touched on it earlier, or Councillor Tate may have. I'd like to know how many of these people, most of your programs are people that want help. They've come to you, they know they have a problem, or they've been picked up by the police or what have you, and they're getting help because of these programs. What is the percentage of the homeless in Oxford County that don't want help? They're not trying to get anything from you. They're just trying to exist wherever they can. Probably because it's mental illness, but it could be just for reasons that they don't want anything to do with the shelters or any of the programs that are available to them. Do we have any percentage on those numbers?
Through Mayor Birch. That's an excellent question, and one that I think we'll be able to get better data and statistics once the mobile bus is around with these new connections, including the police. You are correct. I believe that not everyone is accessing our service clearly. We have over 1,000 people currently receiving Ontario Works. Of that over 1,000, approximately 58 show themselves to have no fixed address. That is the entire county. People that don't receive service, I think that people that do street outreach probably have more relationships with individuals that are not getting financial services, let's say, but they might be getting medical services, that kind of thing. I think that will be part perhaps of more ongoing work to actually find that out. We always say our mandate has been for many years, once we became integrated, everyone is eligible for service. We try to use every tool that we have in our toolkit. Whether someone comes in and they're not eligible for Ontario Works, we always try to make sure that we're seeing what else they might need. Sometimes people will come into our resource room and really all they want is a sleeping bag, or really all they want is a granola bar. They don't want any questions asked and they're on their way. And it takes a while to build up that rapport so that someone feels comfortable coming back, so that we can, really try to get more service provision to them, because we know they need it, that they might not be in a position to accept it or prioritize that. And sometimes they're okay. We often put our own lens of what we consider to be comfort and how everyone perhaps should be living in our eyes, but someone else may see themselves completely differently. But I appreciate that question. I think Rebecca and I will take that back and see if we are able to, through a lot of the service provision that is available, see if we can get a percentage for you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, through the mayor, to the presenters, and thank you very much. And I found this very informative. Just a couple of things. In going through the report, I see there's, I counted up 56 different organizations in the city that were listed, and the majority of them all have something to do with it says mental health. There's other things that they provide, but is there not something that can be done to get these all working together instead of having 56 of them, a lot smaller amount, and there's money going to each one of them, either they're going to the municipalities or whoever they're getting their funding. Has that ever been looked at to try and reduce the amount of what they're doing, so that everybody seems to be working together as opposed to in their little silos?
Through Mayor Birch to Councillor Lauder, I believe that's an excellent question, and that has been looked at, and I think it continues to be, because people recognize there is a lot of need in the community, and there really is not a need to duplicate, because there is such a need. We're not the experts certainly on mental health, because a lot of the services are funded through health, through the healthcare sector, or through the LIN, or through MCSS in another way. So we might augment, or we might look at a specialized project for a very specific group of individuals. So I don't feel comfortable responding with absolute knowledge or expertise, but I do know that's always something that to be looked at. What I can tell you is Canadian Mental Health, for example, they've just recently announced that they've kind of collapsed some of their administration, and now Woodstock, Elgin, and London are all one organization. So I think there of a lens to look at those things, because everyone who is in any kind of human services area, we want to help the people. And I can also tell you that Welkin, for example, they are located. They share one administrative function between Elgin and Oxford County. And I think we will continue to see more and more of that. The Alzheimer's Society, like that just seems to be the way. I think people are recognizing that we need to look at some administrative functions and be sure that the money is available for the community and the individuals who require it. So I suspect, Councillor Lauder, that that will continue to be something that's looked upon, absolutely.
Okay. One other question. The justice system, are you involved with anything to do with the justice system and trying to get more help, as has been said, that the police's hands are tied, they can only do so much, and these people need help, and if there was anything to help, rather than charging them, or because there's no sense in charging them, where are they going to get the money to pay? And like you say, that some of them don't even have homes addresses to even send any court injunctions to their. So is there something through that we can do through the justice system to help the police in these cases?
Through Mayor Birch to Councillor Lauder. We actually have just started a really good partnership with the St. Leonard Society. They have a few housing stability workers that now work in Oxford County. This is a relatively new program, and that's working so far. It's fairly new, but we've seen some success already. And what they do is they do a head lease. So the lease is between St. Leonard Society and the landlord. And so the individuals who have some experience with the law, I guess you could say, they work with St. Leonard's, they sign the lease with St. Leonard's, and St. Leonard's has specific rules and criteria that people need to abide by to continue to be able to live there. So they are very much funded through the justice system. We also work with community options for justice for individuals who are under 18 and require a trustee, for example. Community Options for Justice has staff who will work with the individuals who are under 18 to be their trustee, to guide them. And again, they may have had some experience with the justice system. Canadian Mental Health has people that work within the justice system, because you're correct. This isn't a problem that can be policed through. That's really not the answer for most individuals. So we're really, again, it's all about the community partnerships that we're trying to work with, and we're trying to be very creative and collaborative to be able to offer a variety of options to a variety of people, depending on what their experience is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Accioni.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through yourself to Lisa and Rebecca. Again, thank you for the presentation. There's a lot of good information there and a lot of stats that can be shared now with the community that, of course, is always questioned, what are we doing? What's happening here in the city? And people see nothing. I guess, even though I liked the presentation as presented, I was really disappointed that there wasn't more of recognizing what the issues are and what the county is doing to help resolve them. Like you've got here for housing, of course, you mentioned that you got more housing coming into effect by 2022, but earlier in the presentation, you're talking about there's a need of 2,000 rent geared income housing needed, 1,000 affordable renting housing needed. Obviously another 100 isn't going to come close to being what's needed. What is the county doing? What is the county projection? How do we get more affordable housing in a city that's a little more hesitant to the additional residential units, for example, came up last meeting. about how, we could probably quickly put some apartments into people's houses, which again, didn't go over very well as far as council. And I think public would have a huge issue, but with the province pushing things like that, is that considered at the county level a good short-term solution while these apartment buildings and other affordable housing things are built? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Through Mayor Birch to Councillor Accioni. So the second units, I know that's been a hot topic for the last little while. We actually are considering those second units as potentially being an affordable unit. Now, because those funds come from the province, and that tends to be the concern, we only have so much money, and a lot of this money does come from the federal government and from the provincial government. So in terms, we really only get to do one development per year to use up those funds. So we are working and considering a program to maybe link to those second units. So that would be something that we would bring forward probably within this year, if it is something that County Council is favorable of. So we will look at that. I know it is a hot topic, so there's a bunch of other things that we have to consider. So we will see when that comes forward. And again, a lot of the push for affordable housing lately has been really geared to seniors, and we are considering some other options because we do need to provide some more rent geared to income units. So we are kind of switching gears a little bit and considering those options as well.
If I can continue on here, Your Worship, so the way I look at it, and through conversations with many police and people on the ground, homeless is an issue, there's no question, but the kind of opinion of most isn't necessarily homelessness being the number one issue. It is the affordable housing being the number one issue that a lot of this stems from. So it's just, I don't know, whatever's done to get more affordable housing within Oxford County in general, be it apartment buildings, and again, not just for seniors, there's a real need for younger families and single people that do have, good jobs. They just simply can't afford the $1,500 a month rent now for a single person. Even working at a place like Toyota, it's just so getting outlandish that we are a big city and we hate that. So just was really hoping more insight would be here in your report. And I'm really interested going forward what the county is going to do to help that. So thank you.
Councillor Schattenberg.
Thanks a lot. My question through the mayor to our delegation today. You gave us a lot of information on things like Oxford County Community Health Center and DASO and relationships to programs that they certainly have available. But my concern goes to some of the other things that the councillors have talked about, more of the dollars and cents side of things. What type of dollars you really need, what type of dollars you budget-wise year in, year out. For example, I think of asset management, which is it's sort of a terminology we see lots in the engineering side of things in the city of Woodstock and the properties you currently own. There must be a good number that are getting pretty close to having some significant maintenance or upkeep issues, and sort of what are the dollars and cents and what are the problems in that area that the county may be facing in the very near future. And you talk about rebuilding brand new, but there might be a sense to maybe rebuild brand new and eliminate some old at the same time, which would affect your numbers. Is that part of the sort of the long-term and short-term scenario?
Through Mayor Birch, I'm sorry, I maybe didn't fully understand your question there. Are you more or less referring the new builds and taking over the older builds? Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, to some degree, but just asset management in general and properties that the county currently owns that people are living in and how well maintained they are. And every building needs a new roof at some point in time, kind of a scenario, right?
Yeah, through Mayor Birch again. So a lot of those revitalization projects, maybe more, Lisa can maybe give a little bit more info on that. But the one thing I will mention is we are looking at redevelopment of our existing sites, which I know we haven't done for quite some time. Just an example, the Parkinson project that is going forward. We are looking at possibilities of adding to our existing sites because in general, there is a land shortage, and it is very difficult to find land in addition to funding to have these affordable units. So we are exploring really by revitalizing those existing units and also adding to those existing sites as well.
And if a follow-up on that, we talk often about projects that sort of did not happen because obviously the city level will see a zoning change or a proposal that comes by our desk, and then we approve it, and the County of Oxford says, well, there's going to be X number of affordable housing units within that project. So it only makes sense, therefore, that the county has already earmarked X number of dollars towards a certain project, and all of a sudden you kind of go, oh, that building isn't going to open in 2021 because it's completely fallen through. And I'll mention the Capitol Theater and the project behind the Whittingford Lodge on the south side of Whittingford Lodge as two examples of projects we've seen that too. So one thing your report didn't really touch on is some of the frustrations on that side of things, to sort of say, well, you've had X number of dollars and part of your budgetary numbers doesn't matter if you're getting funding from the county for the levy on that, or if it was monies you were getting from the province or the federal side of things, that all of a sudden these projects did not happen, and your disappointment on that side of it too, as well.
Through Mayor Birch, if I can I'll just make a little point to that. So the rules have changed slightly, and I know that you're aware of those two projects, and we might have had some issues with the one. We're always trying to ask developers to provide units, but I think with everything being so inflated right now with building, and obviously the rents, like you're getting $1,600 for a 1-bedroom, you somewhat get used to that disappointment because we're not able to provide enough incentives for them to actually provide those units. So you struggle with that a lot. And that's why the partnerships with those not-for-profits and the county really providing that land contribution does support that a lot. So we get used to the letdowns, but we try and ask for those affordable units as much as we can.
And I guess my last question therefore would be, at the end of the day, when you talk about homelessness in the city of Woodstock, and what's sort of the correct project or the project you certainly want to get behind and push 120% and say, let's get this done. Other projects and other discussions sometimes happen, doesn't matter if they're from service clubs or other organizations that are very well intentioned. You have something like the Rotary Tiny Homes project where they possibly want to build homes that are only about 100 square feet for one person to live in, and of course you got heating and cooling issues and bathrooms and showering issues and stuff in buildings like that. At the end of the day, the county would not get behind a project like that, would they, or would they?
Through Mayor Birch, the one thing I can say is whatever housing is approved, we are here to provide supports. So I know that in terms of the Rotary development, I know that's another one that's been in the media frequently. When that goes through the proper channels, at the end of the day, if that is an approved development and it goes forward and all parties are happy with that, the county is here with all those supports that we presented.
I'll just wind up with just a statement agreeing what Councillor Sandra Talbot said about maybe some permanent bricks and mortar locations for homelessness people, because I don't believe, as much as hotels and motels have struggled during COVID to be able to fill their rooms, that's at all, and I'm sure you would agree, that a direction that you'd want to go long term to continue to fill up the host motels and hotels with homeless people, when really you need permanent structures that gain equity or their asset management become equity for the County of Oxford and the Human Services Department. Sort of say, okay, we own these buildings, we own these projects, and we're going forward with this, and we're going forward with that, even if it's only got a 5 or 7 year lifespan. At least it's our property, and not, even if it's a lease, that you're not in theory letting money just go out the door by paying somebody's rent to go into a hotel or a motel for a short stay or a long stay.
Thank you. Further questions of council? Councillor Lauder?
Thank you, through to our delegation. Just one thing, and it's going on further to what Councillor Accioni had spoken about, the additional units in homes and you talk about affordable additional units in homes. How is there any guarantee that these people, because people are coming in from out of the city and buying these homes and just for an investment, and so they not necessarily are going to do affordable housing. How would that be stopped or promoted, I guess I should say, that that we want these additional units to be affordable housing? Is there anything that can be done for that?
Through Mayor Birch to Councillor Lauder, there are things that we would do and put in place. It would be the same type of situation that we do for our affordable housing apartment buildings. When a developer does take over the property, it would basically be something very similar. Now, we're just looking at that at this point, so nothing's been confirmed. It's really just in preliminary stages of doing some research at this point, and there are some policy considerations as well. So with all that together, if it was to come forward to council for consideration, all of those things would be considered as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. And I think we'll probably have you back again in the near future for an update. Thank you for your time. And with that, consideration of delegations. Who would like to make a motion? Councillor Accioni, seconded by Councillor Tate.
I move by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the presentation from the Oxford County Human Services Department regarding current support services and initiatives to assist with homelessness as information.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Oh, was that a question?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment now that we've done the motion. I just wanted, because some of the conversation, we seem to lose sight of what we were discussing. So I know we have an issue with affordable housing, which is separate, but this was the homelessness. And I just want to remind people, not just the councillors, but the public, there's some people, the big issue we have with the homelessness that we're having problems with, they're not going to go anywhere. Even if we have a place for them, they're not going to go. So that's why I think it's really important that we have this 24/7 hub, maybe administered by the county. I mean, I think we need to have one location, as Councillor Talbot said, where people that actually need and they're going to use it, that they go to, and the county is looking after it. But this is an addiction and a mental health issue, and turning the whole city into R2 is not what we need. That's a separate issue, completely separate. This is with the homelessness, and I think the mental health and the addiction issue is the big thing, and we need to have somebody 24/7.
Thank you. And now, just to make it official, we'll say all those in favor and approved, unanimous. And then next up, we have the downtown Woodstock zoning review. And who would like to make that motion? Let's see. We'll go Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council request that staff further consider the BIA's request as part of a broader review of official plan policy framework and zoning provisions for the city's central area.
Seconded by Councillor Talbot. And we don't need a presentation on this one, so no discussion. All those in favor? And carries. And then next up, we have a presentation, and this is regarding the Joint Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. And we're joined by Ann Becker of Climb Consulting Inc. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm just going to share my screen. Can everyone see that?
We're good.
Okay, awesome. So I'm excited to be here today and present the draft safety and well-being plan for hopefully your approval. It's been over a year-long process. So I know you have the document and you have a copy of the presentation. So because I only have 20 minutes and there's a lot to get through in order to really present the essence of what we tried to do over the last period of time. So I would ask that we could have questions at the end of the presentation. I think that will be a little bit more efficient and allow me to present everything that's appropriate. So if that's okay with everyone, I will proceed. So just starting with what this is all about. As you know, the municipalities across Ontario were required to develop and approve a community safety and well-being plan by July 1st, 2021. So just a few weeks away. Originally, it was supposed to be at the end of 2020, December 31st, but due to COVID, it was we were given an additional 6 months, which was wonderful. And the purpose of the safety and well-being plan is to improve the safety and well-being of your community members by defining and addressing priority risks through proactive, integrated, system-wide strategies. So that is what we have focused on. This is a very important slide. The plan is very much built on a proactive and integrated approach to safety and well-being, and it addresses the root causes of complex social issues like mental health, like homelessness, like addictions, all of the things that you've been talking about with Lisa and Rebecca. But it works at various levels of intervention, and our focus is very much on social development and prevention. And the theory is, and the hypothesis, and it's a proven one, is if we can spend more time in these two areas, mitigating and stopping risks from evolving, then we will spend a lot less time at the level of risk intervention or incident response, where the police get involved or emergency departments or whatever that may be. So you'll see our plan is very much built at these two levers. And that's certainly where the government asked us to focus our efforts. So the plan reflects that fully. So I just want to give a shout out to the advisory committee, which Lisa was one of the members. There she is, Lisa Lanthier. So it was a cross-disciplinary committee from across Oxford County and mostly service providers, an amazing group of individuals who contributed greatly and helped really steer the efforts of this work. So we were very grateful for that. Our process, just to give you a very high level, we did form this multi-sectoral advisory committee who steered the process. We also had a coordinating committee comprised of the clerks from the 8 municipalities who supported us along the way as well. We completed a full environmental scan. I think we've read every document that is available for public consumption in Oxford County. So that was very fascinating. And we certainly got a really great sense of the amazing assets and programs and providers that you have across your communities. We did develop a community engagement and communication plan. Initially, it was supposed to be very much people-facing, out in your communities. But again, due to the pandemic, we had to go, pretty much everything was virtual, except at the very outset, we were lucky enough to have a focus group with the Situation Table and a couple of other groups, but a lot was done virtually. We did develop communication assets such as a website, social media messaging, communication toolkits, and more. We ultimately facilitated 12 multi-sector and multidisciplinary focus groups and had over 150 participants involved in those groups. We facilitated 2 surveys. So a general community survey, and again, over 1,300 people participated, stepped up for that, which we were very proud of. One of the key groups we really wanted to hear from was youth, and we were struggling getting them involved in the general community survey. It was very hard to reach them in focus groups too, due to all of the things that were going on with online learning and stuff. So we did a youth only online survey, and we received responses from 54 youth, which was great. And we were also able to facilitate a virtual focus group with 10 amazing young people, which really allowed us to dive deeper into some of the findings from the survey. And then finally, we facilitated one-on-one interviews as well. So very comprehensive process. And what I will tell you is that this plan is truly built on what we heard from your community members, which I think is very exciting. So when asked, what does community safety and well-being mean to you? Overwhelmingly, the top answers were good mental health, which you've been talking about a little bit in the last session. People feel it is about feeling safe and protected at home and in our community, having a sense of belonging as well. Good physical health, of course, appropriate and affordable housing, feeling secure that I have my basic needs looked after. So, you know, food, clothing, all of the wonderful things that are important. And then positive relationships and strong neighborhoods and communities. That was very strongly reflected in the survey. And we got pages and pages of written responses, and people talked a lot about the importance of that. When we asked them, what do you feel needs the most improvement and attention going forward, both from youth and the general survey, the #1 area was mental health. And you'll note the answers with green are also very important. So addictions and substance abuse was right up there. Poverty reduction was signaled as very important. And then this whole thing about community belonging and feeling like I'm part of something and that I am valued for who I am. And so that really rose to the surface, and we'll talk to you about that as well. Now, what you talked about just in the past about the housing, affordable housing and homelessness, that was also seen as very important in the adult survey. I don't think we saw that as much in the youth survey because that wouldn't seem as relevant to that group. The last thing I'll mention from the survey, and you would have seen this in the report, but we did ask participants how they felt about their safety and well-being before and after COVID, although midway through we thought we were coming out of the pandemic, and then we kind of got right back into it. But so these could be worse than they were at the time of the survey. But before the pandemic, people were very satisfied with their health and well-being. It was pretty strong. But what you see is those numbers decline significantly post-pandemic. And what's worrisome is that they didn't drop into the neutral category. You see a lot of an increase in the very dissatisfied and dissatisfied. So for example, general population went from 15% to just around 40%, and youth went from 11% to 40%. So you know, something to really be considering as we move forward with implementation of the safety and well-being plan and your post-pandemic action plans that you will, I'm sure, be undertaking. So that was a key finding. So moving along, our 4 priority risk areas that we recommend addressing, and they are all integrated and intersecting themes. And I think that's what's most important. It really speaks to what, I mean, it's kind of lucky that I followed Lisa and Rebecca's presentation in your discussion, because so much of what you talked about is what this is about, this plan, and how these are all interrelated, like mental health, affordable housing, substance misuse, addictions, and equity, diversity, and inclusion, and the whole thing about stigma. They are very connected, and this plan seeks to address those from a social development and prevention perspective. So before I go into the action plan, I'll just identify the critical success factors for implementation, because this is important that you think about this as we move through the risks. So first of all, what we're recommending is that there be an implementation of a safety and well-being, or a steering committee to oversee the Oh, no, the first one, I'm sorry, is a shared responsibility. I'm sorry, I'm jumping to the second one because I'm excited about that. But just that safety and well-being isn't any one person's responsibility. It's not just on your shoulders as council or on the service providers. Everybody has to play a part in this, and that's very critical. The second piece is that we recommend a multi-sectoral steering committee drive this plan, the implementation. It's not enough to just have the plan now. We need to bring it to life. And so we would hope that one person from each municipality would be part of that steering committee. Could be a council member, a mayor, a member of staff. As well, we would want people on it from service providers, as well as ideally people with lived experiences. So bringing their voices to the table. And then reporting in or having a dotted line to the steering committee would be 4 action coalitions that would spearhead and coordinate unified solution development, planning, decision-making, and implementation processes. So again, bringing together the synergistic efforts of all of these amazing service providers and communities to advance the work of these risk areas. The last 2 critical success factors is as you go through implementation, that there continue to be ongoing engagement to ensure that you understand changing needs and evolving risks and involving residents in problem solving. And then the last piece of the puzzle is we need to resource this and support this. So advocacy for resources or funding or grants, whatever that may be, to ensure that we can bring this plan to life. So jumping now, and I know I'm talking very quickly, so I apologize, but I want to make sure I present the essence of the plan. So there are 4 priority risk themes, and underlying everything is a proposed safety and well-being vision for the 8 municipalities. And that vision is communities where individuals and families feel safe, supported, and included, and where they can access what they need when they need it to live fully. So that is the hope. That's kind of our true north vision. And again, by addressing these 4 areas, we believe that that will help you move towards that. So first risk is mental health. And as you know, mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. It's critical. And your communities view good mental health, including access to high quality services, supports, and resources, as the most important contributor to community safety and well-being. And they believe it requires serious attention. As you spoke about previously, the current situation is concerning. Despite the amazing dedication and hard work of all of your agencies and service providers across the county, the current system is not able to meet your population's needs due to long wait lists, shortage of professionals, access issues, inconsistent information and sharing of data between service providers, and the increasing complexity of needs and the impacts of stigma, which are going to be worse, as we know, because of the pandemic and COVID. So as well, your health system, mental health system is underfunded in Oxford County, and the average time waited for mental health case management services in the community is about 110 days. Now that is likely higher now, but that was data we had when developing this report. So if we think about mental health, the plan is not focused on what we are going to do for people that are already in crisis situations or further down the path. The plan, as I said earlier, is very much focused on prevention and on social development. And so the first goal related to mental health is a prevention focus. And under the guidance of a multidisciplinary sectoral action coalition, as I mentioned earlier, and we're recommending that you build on the amazing work being done already by the Oxford Mental Health and Addictions Network. the goal here is to expand primary prevention programs and interventions to reduce exposure to risk factors and enhance protective factors. So there's 3 sub-goals. Leverage and expand early detection and prevention programs to promote positive mental health and wellness at different life stages. So again, you know, early years is very important here. Children and adolescents. So we want to be early days there. Strengthen the partnerships between primary care hospital and community-based care providers. Again, if we can get them working more synergistically and collaboratively together, that will create more clear and efficient service pathways and accountability for how mental health is delivered. And the last sub-goal is to build new pathways and leverage existing pathways for at-risk children and youth. And generally, we can identify those children and youth within the school systems and within our communities, taking very much a place-based approach as well. And putting supports and interventions and programs in place that can really help mitigate mental health risks and mental health problems arising. So huge opportunity, and there's lots of data that supports that. So some expected outcomes might be that adults, youth, and children will feel obviously a greater sense of mental well-being. Emergency department visits for mental health crises will decline because we're taking a proactive approach. And youth and children will feel supported and have a sense of belonging and connectedness. And we know that that's very, very important to mitigate and control mental health concerns. So the second goal in mental health is a social development focus. And social development, as you know, is very much about raising awareness and education at a much broader level. And so here we have 2 goals, which I think are very exciting and are already being done at a provincial and national level, but bringing them right into the community is important. So expand mental health and well-being awareness and literacy programs to promote dialogue, foster understanding, and change mindsets about mental health. And then the second piece is about public and targeted or place-based awareness campaigns about the early signs and risks and protective factors so that parents know what to look for in their children and know those signs of risk, and they're not afraid to take action to support their children when they see those things. There's not the stigma around it. So we want to encourage timely help seeking. And if we can do this really well, we expect some outcomes that are identified here. One example is caregiver proficiency and awareness for how to support children and youth and prevent mental health issues. We want that proficiency to be enhanced. And also the stigma and discrimination associated with mental health disorders will decline. Because right now we know stigma reduces access and to supports, and it reduces the opportunity to take proactive action. So that's the mental health risk. There's more detail in the report, of course. The next priority risk theme is affordable housing. And as you've just talked about, I don't really have to spend a lot of time on this. But as you know, housing, as we just talked about, is a vital social determinant of health and quality of life indicator, influencing individual health and well-being. And I'm not going to go through the housing continuum as Lisa walked you through that. And it is important, though, that we realize it's that whole continuum from, emergency shelters through transitional housing all the way to home ownership. And we've got some issues along that entire continuum right now. For housing to be considered affordable at any point along the housing continuum, the cost should be less than 30% of a family's before tax household income. And we're seeing a lot of struggles in that area right now. Your current situation, as you just learned, is that your supply is not meeting the current and likely future needs across the county. Even your shelters, you have a supply of 50 beds. You don't really have any vacancies in market rental housing, transitional and supportive housing, or your vacancy rate is very low, long-term care, all of these areas. So huge cause for concern. Back in June 2019, and this is data that we had as part of our report, your wait list for social housing in Oxford County was 2,500 applicants. And of course, as you know, and Lisa and Rebecca spoke about this, you are facing a significant and increasing gap between housing prices and household income. So that puts a lot of strain on families, and the implications are quite huge. The shortage of affordable housing means that safe, healthy, well-maintained housing may be unattainable for many families, leaving children and youth in homes that can impede their development. The number of individuals in your county who may experience homelessness will increase over time, and often those individuals will present with more complex needs. So we need to get in front of that. As seniors age, and they may not be able to stay in their current homes, so how do we ensure appropriate housing for them? And this becomes more serious in rural areas. And then finally, individuals and families who have fewer resources to spend on other things, such as food and clothing, childcare, because their housing is taking up more of their income. So again, we have a few issues here, or a few goals. First one is a social development goal, and it's simply to raise awareness about the housing crisis across the whole continuum. And it's very important. People sometimes see this as just a homelessness issue, or just this little segment, but there is a housing crisis, and we need to bring it into local conversations across Oxford County. And partly this is to reduce the stigma associated with social and affordable housing and the "not in my backyard" comments. So we want to raise the community's understanding of the housing crisis impact on community safety and well-being, elevate the community's appreciation that housing is a social justice issue and it impacts everyone, and advocate obviously for more housing and addiction supportive housing and those wraparound services that people need when they're in housing in order to maintain and stay housed. And then even as I think Rebecca talked about, there's investment in alternative housing options for seniors. So that's number one goal, and outcomes again are huge. The more understanding we have, the more people will be prepared to step forward to advocate for change and to participate in identifying ways to address the crises. And housing will be discussed in the context of workforce readiness and other areas as well. So, and then hopefully stigma will decline. The second goal related to affordable housing is to establish, and we believe this is very important, establish a system-wide affordable housing action coalition. So we bring together a group of critical stakeholders from the 8 municipalities and your different community partners and providers, and develop a shared housing approach and action plan. And this will likely build on the work that's already been done at the county with the housing strategy, there's amazing work there. And so how do we build on that given what we're facing today and move forward? And the mandate would focus on increasing access to quality housing options with various levels of affordability and for a diverse range of needs and household sizes across the entire housing continuum in Oxford County. So that's an amazing opportunity to undertake. And again, the outcomes would pay dividends for that strategy. The third risk is substance misuse. And again, this is where we see all these interconnections. The misuse of substances has a severe impact on individuals, families, and communities, and the effects are cumulative, right? And they are very costly from a social, physical, mental, and public health perspective. And we identified here populations at greatest risk. We need to, again, be very proactive with these individuals. So if we think about youth, how do we get in front of this with youth and help them avoid substance misuse issues, or individuals' mental health? How do we work collaboratively to support them? So our current situation is that and again, this is relatively old data. Between 400 and 1,200 community members in Oxford County are struggling with problematic substance use. Your top three substances that are problems are alcohol, cannabis, and then opioid use. But we're seeing, certainly concerning trends in that area. And based on local reports, the most vulnerable to these issues include children and youth, particularly when they live in homes where guardians misuse substances. And then the other big group is people who inject drugs. So what's the action plan? Again, an action coalition, but already you have a drug and alcohol strategy committee. One of your amazing assets as communities is all these great service providers, and a lot of work has been done in these areas. But again, spearheaded by an action coalition, we recommend that you utilize a health promotion and prevention approach. Again, leveraging social media to enhance youth protective factors. We heard a lot from youth through that survey and through that focus group, and they see this as an absolute necessity that we work hard in this area. And then we can also focus on key protective factors that hold promise for making a difference, including getting youth more involved in the community, music, sports, art, and of course that's really suffered in the last year. So how do we really put effort behind that? Building a sense of connectedness, enabling access to peer, parent, and social supports, and more. So again, this is very, very important. Again, big outcomes if we invest in these areas. For example, emergency response to substance abuse misuse incidents should drop. Youth drug and alcohol use rates will decline if we get out in front of this. The second goal in substance misuse is a social development focus. And again, expanding your communities and public's understanding of substance misuse. And again, how to detect, what are the signs? What does it mean? What are the implications? And again, it's very much all of us working together. And so there's great outcomes that could occur by spending more time in this area. The last priority risk is one that we were actually quite surprised rose to the surface, but it did. And it is equity, diversity, and inclusion. And as you know, the face and makeup of your communities is changing and becoming much more diverse. And there's lots of overlapping dimensions, including like ethnicity, gender identity, ability, mental health, socioeconomic status. Those are all forms of diversity. And many of those, there's a lot of stigma associated with those. For example, stigma is one of the leading risk factors contributing to poor mental health outcomes. So how do we deal with this? How do we address these issues related to diversity in order to raise and optimize the well-being and safety of your communities? Throughout our engagement process, stigma and discrimination were dominant discussion topics, as I said. The need to create communities free of stigma where equity, diversity, and social inclusion are prioritized was seen as an essential theme of this plan. And here's a couple of quotes. We believe if we can get in front of this now, you have a huge opportunity to be a leader in this area as a smaller community and that hasn't had as much visible minorities in your communities, but is starting to see, as I said, that the face of your community change, but also in so many other ways. We believe that by taking a proactive approach here, you can be a leader in Ontario in this area. So the EDI action plan is goal number one is a social development focus. So here we suggest that again, you develop an EDI action coalition to develop an evidence-informed, thoughtful, and sensitive EDI strategy. So including an inclusion charter for all communities across Oxford County. And again, you would bring together individuals from all of the councils, people with lived experiences, some of your service providers to really build this strategic plan for EDI. And most importantly, you would engage community members representing the many differences across the county to ensure no one is left behind. So what are some outcomes? There's so many it's hard to count them. But first of all, the values of equity, diversity, and inclusion would be affirmed by the 9 councils and embedded in all of your policies, practices, and services. Diverse groups would be engaging in meaningful ways, which would be a huge opportunity. You would likely start to see leadership within the public, private, nonprofit sectors be more representative of the diversity within your communities, and residents and newcomers would experience a higher level of safety and well-being. The second goal is a social development focus and prevention focus. And this one is developing support and promoting community awareness and education campaigns to improve public understanding of racial and social justice. So there's so many great ways you could do this: virtual and in-person public awareness campaigns, education, workshops, community conversations, introduce opportunities for learning and self-awareness, set up spaces where people can learn about and discuss how to create inclusive communities. Youth had lots of ideas for what they saw they wanted to do in this area related to bullying, discrimination, and stigma. And again, the outcomes would be very beneficial and would definitely drive improvements in the feelings of safety and well-being. So those are the 4 priority risks. Before I move to the final few slides, we do think it's important that as you move to implementation under the direction of a steering committee, that it would be important that a scorecard, a performance scorecard with metrics, be developed across each of the 4 risks areas, and really defining what does performance mean? What are those impact metrics going to be? How are we going to measure and report back to the broader communities and to the councils as you move forward? If without measurement, we won't get the traction we want. What is the role of municipalities in all of this? One, we recommend that each municipality actively participate on the implementation steering committee to spearhead implementation of the plan. We would encourage you to ensure stakeholders from your communities participate on the action coalitions associated with each priority risk, that you support all action plans to drive the desired outcomes across each of the priority risks. Help us, or not us, the royal we, advocate for additional resources to support the work of the action coalitions, and then finally help entrench the plan into your communities and support transformational change. Without the councils driving a lot of this and really supporting and leading the way and talking about this, it won't take shape the way we need it to. So we see you as a key leaders in this process. And certainly the service providers are very excited to walk hand in hand with the councils down this road of implementing this plan. So in closing, Safe and Well Oxford Communities is our pledge, or is your pledge, to one another and to the people you serve. It is a testimony to what we learned during our planning process while building on your remarkable legacy of being a vibrant and very safe community that residents love to call home. It is really a call to action, charting your course forward to an even brighter future. And it asks everyone, municipalities, service providers, residents, businesses, and more, to step forward and work together to achieve your community safety and well-being vision of communities where individuals and families feel safe, supported, and included, and where they can access what they need when they need it to live fully. That is it. That was I think the fastest I've done it. We keep getting better at presenting this as we present to the various councils. And so I'm here if there are any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Questions of council? Councillor Accioni?
Oh, I guess I should stop share.
Sorry, there we go. Thank you, Your Worship. I just really wanted to say thank you. I guess today seemed to be appropriate with the 2 presentations kind of working together. I know talking about different things at the same time, but yet related. The information here is incredible. The amount, I keep rereading this stuff, is is kind of shocking to see what lays. And I really just want to say thank you to everybody involved here. In speaking with a few of them separately, I know how much work was involved in this, and I just want to go on the record to say thank you, really, and kind of gives us a jumping off point to look at where we make decisions in the future. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Petter.
Thank you through the mayor to Ann. Ann, I'm not sure my mind's capable of absorbing that much information in that short a time, but certain things stick. And one of the things that stuck in my mind was when you said 30% of before tax income was needed for housing. Based on that, and this is a totally unfair question, so if you don't have the answer, don't worry about it. But based on the rents and cost of home ownership in Oxford County, and based on 30% number, and based on 2,000 hours a year, do you happen to know what the hourly rate would be in order to accomplish that goal?
I do not. I'm sorry, I do not. But it's a bit of a scary number for sure, because, and it's getting harder and harder to achieve that for people, but I don't know what that would be. I'm sorry.
I told you it was a totally unfair question. Thank you.
Lisa may know, but I don't know.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. And through the mayor to Ann, it's just a comment, and I just want to thank you for your presentation. But what I was impressed with was the comments from the young people. And I think that's so important that you involved the young people and got some of their thoughts and how things, because I understand that there's lots of issues with the young people now through mental and addiction and things in their home life. So thanks for including those young people in this survey.
Your young people are amazing, and their voices were very compelling, as you said.
Thank you. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Ann, just to continue what Councillor Lauder was referring to, the comment that I liked the best that was going to stop reading or seeing social media to improve my mental health. So that was one smart cookie right there. Because I think with all the problems that have been going on, the bullying and things that have happened in the past, I thought that was a true comment and someone who recognizes where a problem could occur. I had my whole report highlighted on areas I wanted to ask you, but obviously I didn't save it properly because I don't have a highlighted copy anymore. So I may get back in touch with you because I found the information to be compelling. Like it just, you live in a community, I've lived here my whole life, and I'm reading some of the information that you've gathered, and it just is such an eye-opening report. So I hope more people take the opportunity to read it because I think they would find it most interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further questions of council? Councillor Schadenberg.
Thanks a lot from the mayor through to Ann Becker. I guess maybe just more curiosity, anything else. What's your timetable like? Have you gone to the townships with this report and to Ingersoll and Tillsonburg already?
We have, I think we've done five of the councils right now. We have not gone to Ingersoll, Tillsonburg, or I can't remember the other one that we're going to. So we have 3 more to go to. We have had approvals from the ones that we've been to so far. So they will all be done, I believe, by the middle of the month, which is great because the deadline is the end of June. So we will have all of that done by then. And all very supportive. so
I guess
far.
my follow-up to that is there's obviously lots of diversity that you talked about, but at the same time, similarities. Would there be sort of a meeting of the minds to create a steering committee amongst Oxford residents, whether it be an advisory committee or a steering committee in general, be based on not solely on age bracket differences, but everything else that's different from one community to the next to be able to do this. But that's really the mandate of this project, is it not?
It is. And I think there's huge support of that cross municipality, cross sectoral steering committee coming together. And I think the opportunity is significant in order to, how do we share service? Because you share services, you share service providers, you're dealing with all of the same issues, some at different levels, obviously, between the various communities, but I think they're pretty significant and the writings on the wall. And because this plan is focused on prevention and social development, there's so much opportunity for you to come together and work on these, this action plan as a group. And as I said, really in tandem with the service providers, which I think they're really excited about as well. So yeah, it's all been good.
Thank you. Further discussion? All right, thank you very much for your presentation, and we'll deal with that a little later in the agenda. So our next item on the agenda is the application for tax relief, and looking for a mover, Councillor Tate, and a seconder, Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council directs the treasurer to council reduce or refund the taxes levied in 2020 as detailed in the report.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And our next one is the transit expansion, the tender award for the bus purchases. Councillor Petter and the seconder, Councillor Accioni.
I move that Woodstock City Council award the tender for the purchase of a 2021 trailer-mounted vacuum leaf vacuum to FST Canada Inc. for $82,482, exclusive of HST.
Thank you for keeping them in order and doing that one before the buses. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries. And now the buses. We'll go Councillor Schadenberg, seconded by Councillor Accioni.
Yes, it's a Woodstock City Council award the tender for the purchase of two 40-foot transit buses to Nova Bus, a division of Volvo Group Inc. Canada, in the amount of $1.079,904, exclusive of HST.
Thank you. Discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, maybe want to comment from our engineering department and Harold DeHaan, just based on gas tax contributions possibly, and what the city taxpayers are paying for these two buses as we expand the bus route to 7 routes from 6 later this calendar year.
Your worship, through the councillor, thank you. Yeah, actually, these buses, although the tender amount is over $1 million, the taxpayers are only going to be paying just over $180,000 for these two buses, due to the fact that they were part of a funding grant that we were approved for, that included some other works. So basically, the city ends up only paying 17% of the total costs. Along with that funding grant through Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, was an expansion of our bus barn to house these buses, and a wash bay facility, or a washing facility, that we also got approved, as well as we're hoping to get some new software for the buses also.
Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, I guess as a quick follow-up, the city of Woodstock also has a long history with the company Nova Bus. Maybe give us some extra background on that to people will understand that.
Your worship, through the councillor, yes, thank you very much. Actually, you may remember that in the past, we've always kind of gone to council to ask to sole source our buses through Nova, because all of our buses are Nova buses, and our mechanics are pleased with them. They're familiar with their workings. We've had a good relationship with them, good success with them. However, because of the funding program, we had to put it out for a competitive bid. But we were quite happy to see that Nova actually did come in as the low bid.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And next up, we have the sale of city-owned lands. And we'll go with Councillor Accioni and a seconder, Councillor Talbot.
Yes, move that Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement of purchase and sale with Rajesh Aurora and the necessary bylaw be read.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And next up, we have the Awards of Excellence, Councillor Talbot and seconded by Councillor Accioni.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move that Woodstock City Council confirm the selection of Jocelyn Klein, Logan Mashin, and Abigail White as the winners of the 2021 Student Civic Award of Excellence, and further that account 0204-837490000 Student Civic Award of Excellence be increased by $2,000 in order to award 3 Student Civic Awards of Excellence for 2021. And further that the funds be drawn from account 1200-7111-00348 Council, Publicity and Promotion.
Thank you. Discussion? And we'll go Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Just a comment. Normally, we would just only give out one award for this Award of Excellence, but these 3 students were just, they had overwhelming applications, and I think they're all deserving. So I just want to thank my fellow councillors for agreeing to go the extra mile for these 3 students. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Accioni.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And I too just wanted to say big congratulations to Jocelyn, Logan, and Abigail, as they really do deserve it. With a child graduating myself this year in grade 12, knowing the challenges they've had and to see some of the marks and even what they have been able to accomplish even through the last year and a half is so incredibly impressive that they certainly all deserved it. So congratulations to them. I wish them well as they move on and hope to see them back in a leadership role of some sort, of course, in the future here in the city of Woodstock. So thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And next up is the Joint Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. Councillor Accioni and the seconder, Councillor Petter.
Yes, move that Woodstock City Council approve the Safe and Well Oxford Communities Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, and further that City Council direct staff to send a copy of the approved plan to Oxford County Council to request endorsement and support for the implementation of the Safe and Well Oxford Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And next up, we have the 2021 Community Grants Program. Councillor Lauder and the seconder, Councillor Tate.
Thank you. I move that in accordance with the Community Grants Policy GA003, Woodstock City Council allocates the following grants for the year 2021. Beginnings Family Services, $2,000. Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Oxford County, $2,000. Woodstock and District Developmental Services, $5,000. Woodstock Lawn Bowling Club, $2,000. Woodstock Miners Soccer Club, $2,000. And Woodstock Rotary Festival of Music, $5,000.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Lauder.
Just a comment that I want to thank the committee that worked on this. It's always hard to say no to groups, or we can't pay out what they would like, but at least we are trying to recognize as many as we can with the funding that we have and especially this year and going into next year, because this money comes from the OLG grants, and there won't be any, or if there is, it'll be very little. So thanks again to the committee.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And then we have the renaming of the west side of Van Sittert Park. And we'll go Councillor Schadenberg and the seconder, Councillor Tate.
Yeah, I make a motion that Woodstock City Council directs staff to commence the required public comment period in accordance with County Council Policy GA 019, property and facility naming, in order to consider renaming the west side of Van Sittert Park, the Florence Carlisle Park, and to designate a portion of the park as the Bruce Flowers Sculpture Garden. And further, that staff be directed to report back to council outlining the results of the public consultation.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Schadenberg?
No, we have our gallery director present with us this afternoon, Mary Reed. Maybe she can give us the Coles Notes version of the Florence Carlisle background on the city of Woodstock. It is part of the report, and people can certainly read about it in the agenda and the importance of it. But Florence Carlisle is very much a specifically well-known person from the city of Woodstock.
Thank you very much to the worship through the councillor's question. Florence Carlisle was an amazing woman, extremely atypical for her time. She's represented in all of the major collections across Canada as a very notable artist. Particularly her portraits were the subject of many commissions as well. And due to this, she really has not had her proper due here in Woodstock. She wasn't born here, but she was certainly raised here and returned here throughout her career over many, many years. So to be able to have a park named after her, and particularly a gateway park into Woodstock, I think is a very, very appropriate. And to follow up on the comments of the community well-being report, is a small step in the direction in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion in Woodstock.
Thank you. Continue.
I guess my follow-up to that might also be something that Brian Connors from the Parks and Recreation Department might answer, because there's certainly some pictures or rendering drawings of what the park might look like as far as what the west end of Van Sittert Park looks like now. But generally, is this something that's going to take place this year as far as the improvements go on the park and the Bruce Flowers, the sculpture garden, or is that something that we have to approve for next year's budget?
Your worship, through the councillor's question, currently we don't have any budgetary funding for that, but what we would do is, if this does get approved by council, it would appear in the capital budget for next year.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And no notices of motion or new business. So now the bylaws. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Schadenberg that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 946221, which is a bylaw to authorize the use of vote counting equipment for the 2022 municipal and school board election. And 946321, which is a bylaw to provide for the sale of certain lands owned by the corporation of the city of Woodstock to Rajesh Arora.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And carries unanimous. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Tate that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 946221 and 916321.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And today we'll start our addresses with Councillor Tate.
I'm just going to leave with a positive note again about my niece's boyfriend, Damian Warner. I know I've told some of you, but he competed on an event in Austria on the weekend, and he ended up with the fourth highest points in history for the decathlon. He is the guy to beat at the Olympics, so when the Olympics come, watch out for him. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Your Worship. I read some earlier news today, which is very positive as well, from the health minister that we might be opening up a little bit before the 14th, maybe just a couple of days, but it might be having some patios. And having been driving down Dundas Street quite a bit because a few of the other streets are under construction, you can see that everybody is getting ready and preparing for hopefully all the people to come and use the patios, even a few new ones. So it's a positive thing to see. The numbers are down, and maybe someday we won't be talking about COVID like we are right now. So let's everybody keep doing what we need to do to make the numbers come down. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And we'll go Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I just wanted to let you know that, again, on the positive side, the Lock and Key Production Company will be on site at the library next week. And this is from the CEO, David. While we will be able to provide curbside service on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, we will suspend this service on Wednesday and close the library access to the library on Wednesday, and will be restricted as the Hunter Street in front of the library will be closed during that filming. So this is all good, and I have yet to see this show production, but I think it'll be great that our library is involved in that. And thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Petter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of quick things. One, I'm glad Councillor Tate brought up some kind of a sport, because sports are pretty well non-existent right now. They used to like to report on local sports and professional sports, but the Raptors are done. Leaf Nation. I'm glad we were talking about mental health, because there's a lot of guys that need some help right now from Leaf Nation. But anyway, we've still got the Jays. They're still playing and competing and still have a shot. I know Councillor Schattenberg probably should take over the sports reporting from now on from me. I didn't have Mark when I was on last time. One other thing, I want to thank Gail, Amy, Chris, Alicia, and Ann for getting me up to speed, especially Chris for his technology, which I'm sure he's found was very hard to get through this thick skull, but he managed to do it. As you can see, I'm on here and I'm talking, I'm not muted, so everything's good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Councillor Schattenberg.
Instead of talking about sports, Councillor Petter, I'll continue to talk about entertainment, as I have much lately. Just a reminder, you have until 3 p.m. on Tuesday, June the 8th to vote for Anna Belloff, who's Anna B. in the Toyota CBC Searchlight contest. She made the final 100. So you look online, cbc.ca/music/searchlight, and you can vote once per day for Anna B. or Anna Belloff in the competition. You've got till June 8th at 3 p.m. For voting on that. And of course, speaking about more youth, Anna Belloff is, of course, the youth from the city of Woodstock. She's about 17 or 18 years old now. But anyway, I want to congratulate my daughter. Here's some patting myself on the back, but certainly patting my daughter on the back. She just found out she's been elected the president of student council for next year at her school, at the Notre Dame school, which is, of course, the École Marguerite Bourgeois high school version of that. So I want to congratulate her. She just found out this morning that she won the election to be school president for the student council. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Councillor Accioni.
Thank you, Your Worship. In light of this being Pride Month and the tragedies recently found at a former BC residential school, I'd ask that we all remember those that have suffered in the past and have open hearts and minds now and in the future, as love is love. Discrimination shouldn't be tolerated, and just be safe and stay positive, everybody, please. That's all for right now.
Thank you. And people should now have their What's on Woodstock magazine come to their house. And this is part 3 of understanding how our local government works. And it covers quite a bit to do with what we were discussing here at council today with our counterparts at the county and what's going on with the homelessness issue and housing and all of the social issues. So take a look at that and find out how you can get involved in being part of that solution as well. And with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. We'll go Councillor Petter, seconded by Councillor Accioni. All those in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you.